Valheim is an open-world survival crafting game. One of many, and one of my favorites. A lot of people's, in fact. Despite this, there's still a lot of people who haven't ever played this game or even heard of it. Well, that I say, shame on you. Also, I want to teach anyone unfortunate willing to have clicked on this video on how to play. Now, there's a lot of tutorials on this platform. A lot of them are really good tutorials, in fact. However, I've noticed this growing trend of more and more videos covering exploits over good, hard learning. So I wanted to make a series where we don't exploit mechanics or the terrain or anything I arbitrarily deem cheaty. You're free to use them, I'm not your dad, but I won't be covering them here. So, without further ado, welcome to a legitimate guide to Valheim. Just a quick forward, this tutorial assumes that you know what a video game is, but you haven't played this one. Experienced players might not learn anything from this, but God, I hope it's entertaining while you write your comments about how dumb I am for not using exploits. Another quick point is that there is no wrong way to play this game. I've seen people play this whole thing backwards, or with no armor, or no weapons, no attacking, no moving, no maps, no teleporting, yada yada. So you can absolutely play this game in any way you want, and I'm not going to judge you. Hell, let me know in the comments if you've played or beaten this game in any kind of non-standard way, because I would love to hear about it. And hey, maybe subscribe while you're at it, yeah? Anyway, enough of the preamble, time to ramble. In order to start, you need to make a character. I'm not going over this. You also need to create a world. Make sure you name it something memorable. Your seed can stay random, or you can just put in whatever. I also recommend, if this is your first time, going into world settings and turning this slider all the way off. You could leave it on very low, but just trust me, leave it off. Now, there's going to be people in the comments talking about how necessary the raids are to the true experience of Valheim, and how having a team of fat, sweaty smurfs level the buildings that you've worked hours on is just part of the fun. But personally, I don't feel like craving death during this, so I'm leaving it off. I recommend you also leave it off for your first time, but hey, I'm not your dad, you do you. Everything else should be a-okay though. Now, the first time you load your world, it's going to take a while. This is because Richard Svensson and Henrik Tornqvist are manually handcrafting your world for you in real time. So make sure to thank them and blow a kiss towards Sweden to help with load times and morale. After loading, you get a text crawl with flavor text for the setting. You can probably read this, and you probably should, but I'm currently tabbed out writing the script instead, so I'm not. Then, you get to have another loading screen. After that, a bird carries you off to a stone circle and then drops you off at daycare. Welcome to the Meadows! Your threats in this area are children, big pig, and nets. When you land, you should notice two things. One, bird. This is Hugin, one of Odin's ravens and a certified cutie. He shows up to teach you new mechanics and give hints on how to progress, so make sure to listen to the bird. Second, this little glowy boy here. You should probably touch these whenever you see them because they'll show you the nearest boss in that biome. This one, for example, is Eikthyr. We'll talk more about him later. You can find him now if you want. Get back with me on how that goes. Instead, let's talk about your first steps. Before you can do anything, you're gonna need wood and stone. Wood could be found by picking up branches or by punching tiny trees and bushes. Not that one. Stone can be found by picking up rocks off the ground and picking up more rocks off the ground. Not that one. Realistically though, you should probably be grabbing anything you find, and while you're at it, you should probably mark any important resources, like berries or mushrooms. This can be done by double-clicking the map, and then naming it something appropriate. Left-clicking that icon will cross it out, right-clicking outright deletes it. I recommend getting at least enough wood for a hammer. With this and 10 wood, you'll be able to build a workbench, which will allow you to build structures as well as... next step is axe. Once you have that axe, the fun begins. With an axe in hand, you will be able to cut down trees in the area, not that one. And get about 20 wood per tree. That's 10 per tree part. Sometimes these trees will fall onto other trees and damage them. This can cause a domino effect, which is really fun and can be used for certain tree farms, but I'm not covering this here. These same trees can fall on you and kill you, which is funny. I can't tell you how much wood you're going to need exactly, but just go until your axe breaks. Or until you're bored, I'm not your dad. Now, in order to have a functional workbench, it needs a roof. This could be done by simply placing it under a rock, which will give you full access. Or you can craft a hoe, level some ground, put down a bench nearby. It doesn't have to be covered for building purposes. And then build yourself a little house. It doesn't have to be much, but if you want to go the extra mile and make it look nice, there's hundreds of building tutorials out there, and I'm not about to steal their thunder. I might steal their builds later, though. All in all, just remember to take your time, since there's no rush in this game, and the only time limits in this game are self-imposed. Going in safely at a reasonable pace is always better than rushing in blindly, dying, and then getting frustrated. Plus, nights in the Meadows are basically sick. At any rate, the only thing your shelter really needs at this point is walls, a ceiling, campfire either nearby or inside, and a bed if you don't want to have to run all the way back from spawn every time you die. Also, did you know that fires consume fuel and produce smoke? Did you also know that smoking kills? So make sure to add some kind of ventilation in the form of either a chimney or leaving a little gap between the roof and the upper wall. If you go the chimney route, make sure you add a roof up on the top of it so that it stays lit during the many storms you're going to encounter while playing. Now, you see that little icon that just popped up? That's your rested bonus. It happens when you have a fire nearby and is increased by having a comfortable area when resting. While rested, your health, your stamina regen, and XP gain, as well as a secret fourth thing we'll talk about later, are all increased. Realistically, you should try to always have a rested buff active, as it makes the game significantly more pleasant. Also, sleeping through the night helps keep the cold at bay and keeps tougher enemies from spawning at your base later on. Now that you have a nice comfy spot to come back to, we need to discuss your next steps. In order to beat Eikthyr and feasibly progress to the next zone, you're going to need 3 things: food, weapons, and armor. Each of these things kind of feed into each other, but I'll try to discuss them one at a time. Food can be found in a variety of ways. You've probably already found berries and mushrooms. You've likely run into a boar or two, and maybe you've even found some bees, which you can actually knock down and rehouse. Deer, however, require a bit more finesse. More on them in a moment. Weapons and armor are crafted at the workbench. However, armor will require crafting table upgrades, which there's currently 2. This first one is easy. The second one requires a little bit of hunting. Now, there's no wrong choice when it comes to weapon types, and anything can be used as long as you're having fun with it. In the Meadows, I personally prefer a knife for close up and a spear for range. Once you have your weapons of choice, let's talk blood. Combat in Valheim is fairly simple once you get the rhythm of it. Left click to attack, right click to block, and middle mouse for your secondary attack, provided your weapon has one. Blocking at the right time causes parry, which increases your block strength and usually staggers your enemies as long as the block strength outweighs the enemy attack. There's a lot of math to it. Generally speaking, if you're properly geared up for the area, you'll be able to parry. You can also dodge by holding block and then jumping. Learning when to block and when to dodge is a very valuable skill. Start training. But also remember that parries will always look cool and feel satisfying. And having a shield helps with those blocks and parries. It won't help with your dodges though, that only comes from you. When hunting, remember to approach your target stealthily if you can. When you hear a deer, sneak immediately and follow that sound. Make sure you stop moving to regain your stamina whenever it's low. Otherwise, you're going to stand right back up again and that deer's going to run off. Once you have line of sight, you've got a few options. You can try getting closer to it, in which case I'd recommend you stay behind it, keep low, whatever, and, go in for the kill whenever you want. Another option is you can hit them from range. Remember when aiming that you need to aim a little bit high, and when you're aiming with a spear, aim a little high and then aim a little higher. Or you can use a cooking station to stop that deer directly in its tracks. If you're a cheater, let's be honest though, their AI is kind of whack. Probably going to just run themselves directly into some geometry that's going to screw them up anyway. Now, note that there are creatures with 1 or 2 stars under their nameplates. Starred creatures are tougher and drop more loot, so don't pass up an opportunity to get some extra stuff. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I've always found deer way more plentiful than boars, and I usually will find myself searching for hours and hours for enough boar scraps. If only there was a way to keep boars and breed them for easy boar bits. I'll cover this next episode, don't worry. Meats can be cooked above any campfire with a cooking station placed above them. You can stack several on one fire as long as they're roughly above the stones. I have 4 in this example, but you can easily stack more. I'd recommend cooking some deer meat and some boar meat. You can also cook up some necktails, if you're an absolute psychopath. Food is separated into 3 categories: health-based, stamina-based, and balanced. Each one of these is self-explanatory. I recommend that you eat appropriately for whatever situation you're in, bearing in mind that while health is very important, stamina is too. And while stamina is important, dying sucks, and not dying is nice. While we're home, let's knock one more thing I forgot to add off the list: upgrades. Probably noticed that button up there. You should always upgrade when you can, as it improves the damage, durability, and protection for whatever item is in question. Be advised that upgrading your leather armor will require bones. so I won't be doing that. You shouldn't need it anyway as long as you're upgrading your shield and your weapon of choice. Also, upgrade your hammer and your hoe while you're at it. Your future self will thank you later. With all that out of the way, you should be ready for the big hunt. Every boss in Valheim requires some form of item in order to begin the fight. This is usually hinted at by the little glow doober near the shrine. In Eikthyr's case, you need 2 deer heads, which you should have. So grab them, grab your food, rest up, and then head towards the altar. Make sure you eat along the way and not right when you get there like a fool. In order to start the fight, place the heads in your hotbar and then press the associated key over the altar and then get ready for the rodeo. This fight should be fairly simple as long as you're remembering to block and dodge when necessary. Remember that you don't have any way to heal outside of natural regeneration, so be sure to keep that in mind during the fight. But hopefully that shouldn't be a problem. If it is, I'd recommend you go practice blocking and dodging with your local Grayling boar, because I promise you it only gets harder from here. Eventually, you will fell this heavenly deer, and... Come on. Then he'll drop his head as well as his antlers. We'll get into what those do next episode, but the head goes back to the sacrificial stones where you first landed. Placing him on his rock shoots off fireworks, congratulations, and allows you to have your first power. Stamina reduction on sprinting and jumping, very nice. After gaining the zoomies, your best bird shows up and points you in the direction of your next major foe, the Black Forest. But that's a problem for next episode, so remember what I taught you and you should be just fine. In addition, stay tuned to learn, can a pig learn to love? How hard is mining really? And what if trees fought back? So if you like what you've seen and you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell and all that other fun stuff. And until the next one, remember warrior, Odin's watching you, so make him proud.